Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast, where we interview experts in driver recruiting. We provide industry insights, marketing trends, and motivation to help you level up your recruiting game. Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Craddock, and today we have Rodney Eaves with us. And Rodney is currently with Baggett Transportation in the Director of Recruiting role. I'm super excited to have him on today. He's got 30 plus years transportation industry experience and has been at several different fleets, really in a myriad of different capacities. And so I'm excited to just dig in today and talk about growth mindset. Like we've already been talking about our morning routines and things like that. And I think how we do one thing is how we do everything. So I think just even these little things like Rodney hitting the gym every morning, except this morning, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes. I apologize for that.
There you go. So Rodney, what do you typically do? Yeah, like starting your day as a director of recruiting, which starts at home at 5 o'clock. How do you kind of get going? Because this can be a tough industry.
Yeah, it's a very tough industry. So therefore, that's why I start my day at 5 o'clock every morning. So the alarm goes off, the feet hit the floor. Very grateful for that opportunity, and just get dressed and head to the gym. The gym pretty much consists of an hour, 15 minutes, get dressed, head to work. Basically, at that point, open up the laptop, see how many emails I have, how many apps that came in at that point, and just reaching out. You know, I guess we've noticed in the industry back in, I guess we can say 2020, when the pandemic hit, the industry, in my opinion, changed where the drivers were calling us. We just kind of sat back, had to answer the phone call. Now I've seen if we don't just bang those phones out every day, we're not reaching the drivers.
Mm-hmm. Do you do, other than just calling, like we're going to dive right into it, other than just calling, like do you also like text them, reach out to them other ways, message them, email them? Do you have like different kind of nurture campaigns, or is it just calling is what you're seeing is effective?
I do all the above, everything you just said. So every avenue that's out there, we're doing it. Obviously, we're going to start with a phone call. We're going to leave the voicemail. We're going to send a text. We're going to send the email. If they have the pulse option, we're going to do that as well. And then just follow up until we exhaust that lead.
Mm-hmm. And do you call them even if you don't have a full application? Like, do you go ahead and reach out to the short applications too? Like if they fill out a short
every
form?
Single time. Yes, I need to know exactly what they're looking for. Why are they looking? Kind of at that point, active listening, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me what you're looking for. See if we can be a good fit.
Yeah, and y'all are around 200 trucks. Is that right? Currently?
That's correct.
Awesome. What are kind of your, like, are you trying to scale the fleet right now? Like, what are you kind of seeing in the looks like the flatbed market is kind of what you're looking at growing. Like, are you looking at scaling that, just controlling for retention right now? What do things kind of look like for you guys?
You know, we are trying to grow the flatbed division. We have the van, we have the reefer. We're pretty much standpoint there. But as far as flatbed division, I mean, we do want to grow it, but at a slow pace. Turnover is very limited, very low. So truck capacity is limited as well. So that could be good or bad, right? Depending on how many trucks we have available, that's how many company drivers we can bring in. So with that being said, we do have the owner option as well to bring those drivers in. So we can capitalize at that point. But as far as the company drivers, yeah, we're limited. Still trying to grow at a small scale. You know, we're not bringing in, I mean, you've seen these orientation classes from 15, 20 drivers, you know, every Monday. So we're not that. You know, we want to be a little bit more intimate. Can I use a word cliche? Family, team, if you will, concept. So that's where we are. You know, just, 5 to 8 drivers a month on the company side. We're golden.
Mm-hmm. And then how many owner ops are you trying to bring on typically?
About the same, actually. You know, again, we want this small orientation class to be intimate. You know, we don't want this to be a cattle call where they're coming in and don't feel that, love, if you will. Every Monday morning, I'll make sure I go in, shake hands, smile, look them in the eye. Kind of sound like a politician all of a sudden, right? But we're not kissing babies. We are like I think that's a lost art, if you will. Continue to shake hands, be in front of one another. Thank them for being here, because as we know, there's other 20 plus carriers out there that are doing the same thing that we are. Mm-hmm. So thank you for being here. This is a great opportunity for both of us to succeed, and we're excited for this opportunity that you're here.
Mm-hmm. What would you say kind of differentiates Baggett Transportation like in your offering and like what you're talking to drivers about?
Yeah, it's pretty, unfortunately, there's not much that we're different than the other carriers or the competitors are. I do feel like it's a smaller company. Therefore, I can sell the family feel, the team concept. If you have a problem, call me, call anyone. And I think as far as recruiting goes, that's key. Always be available. You mentioned that short out that you get. Once you start building that relationship, then at that point you follow up. Things change 3 months down the road. Things change 6, 9 months down the road. So you never just drop someone off unless they clearly say, hey, I'm not a flatbed driver anymore. Mm-hmm. Right? Then we move on. Other than that, we leave the door open because you never know what's going to change for that individual down the road.
So you have quite a few drivers that you've been talking to for a while that didn't come on initially when that app came in, but then end up coming on later because you follow up.
Absolutely. So I'm not saying there's a timestamp, 3 months, 9 months, but it can be as simple as I'm going to shoot this driver a text because it has been 3 months. Hey, just checking on you. Hoping everything's great, and that's all they're really needing, right? Just to see that someone is still keeping up with them after they told me, no, not looking right now. Mm-hmm. So a simple text, simple phone call, leave a voicemail and move on till, let's say, the next 3 months down the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really liked that personal approach. That's kind of been like a recurring theme. I think it's kind of funny. We're like in the era of artificial intelligence and all this automation, and almost I feel like every other conversation I'm in is about like, we just got to see people in person and like talk to them as real people. And that's just the differentiator. Like, be real, be authentic. I liked what you said, being available, because I think a lot of directors of recruiting aren't available, and so I could see that being just a massive selling point because they know you're busy, like with your job and all the things you're responsible for. So I think that probably goes a long way. Do many drivers like take you up on that? Like reach out to you, call you?
They do, unfortunately, or fortunately, right? They're calling me, so that's a good thing. But the wife doesn't like when you're eating, at the dinner table at night. You just kind of turn the phone over, and I'll get to it, in a second. Give me 30 minutes, and get to it. But you always take the laptop home because you never know if someone calls says, "Hey, I just submitted an application. Will you check something for me?" And you do that, right? Because the most time these drivers are done, in that window when we're done at night, right? So they're sitting at the truck stop or they're behind the wheel. They're needing to talk or they're needing to ask a question for you. So it's a perfect opportunity to pick up the phone. I mean, it's going to be a 5-minute conversation at best, or it's going to be a simple text to respond back to. Once you are always available for them, that goes a long way. It really, really does.
Mm-hmm. And I like that point too of like flipping the phone over at the dinner table, because I have that tendency of like wanting to check it constantly, but just the importance of like guarding that little bit of family time and being intentional. And then that still is immediate response, right? If you get back to somebody in 30 minutes, like, that's pretty quick. So
yeah, absolutely.
I like that because they don't know if you were on another call or what was going on. So.
And they always say, man, I can't believe you got back in touch with me, right? And they always say that, like, because I'm sure I'm not the only one they've reached out to. So I want to be the one that does follow up with the missed phone call or the text that they sent.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So going more into kind of, because one of the things I'm kind of intrigued by and looking through the pre-podcast stuff is just, it looks like you read a lot. Like Ginger took a picture of your bookshelf, and there are a lot of good books on there. Like what's something you've read just throughout your career that's had a really big impact that might pertain to
I'm looking at my small library of this. I'm looking at my small library here at work. So it's, I'm not big on self-help or motivation because I feel like every morning when I take that next step, it's just habit forming. Those are habit formings when you want to do better for yourself, better for your family, right? My thing is adversity. We all go through storms. We all have those seasons. How did this person get through it? That's what I want to know. That's my challenge. Yeah. So in that way I could help someone else, for example. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what's a good book?
One I read.
What's a good book on adversity?
Well, the one I'm reading right now is Scars and Stripes. I'm a big, I guess, military, just because they go through so much. This individual, you may have heard of the name Tim Kennedy. He's done a little bit of everything, right? From UFC to Green Beret to now starting his own school for kids, right? It's pretty cool what he's gone through, and he's had some adversity as well, failing. So failing sometimes is good if we can get through it, right? We learn from that experience and we can make ourselves better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've been through just lots of hard things in my life, and from anything to, like I mentioned on a previous podcast, like battling with addiction. Like I went through alcoholism for like a decade and struggled with that. I've been sober, a little over like 3 years and 2 months, and grew through that. But I'm thankful for that challenge and like adversity. Like I'm not thankful for the havoc that I caused for other people in my life, but I'm thankful that I went through that. And to your point, now I'm able to help people, right? And so it is our scars and our struggles enable that. Like I was able to grab coffee with a guy yesterday morning and meeting with another guy later this week, just talking through that are kind of in early recovery. And then I've got more than my share of failings also in building a business from the ground up, because I bootstrapped this business, started it 5 years ago, and it's hard to build a business from scratch. And I kind of thought with all of my past experience in the industry with other companies that it would be like, sure, Aaron, like here's our whole budget, let's go. Like, but no, like past success doesn't guarantee future results. It's very much just what can we do today, not the other. And so it's we've grown each year, but it's definitely been harder, like a lot harder than I anticipated. And then I've had all kinds of failures along the way, just like I come from an ops background. So kind of like you doing the day-to-day of the recruiting, I do the day-to-day of the marketing is my background and building those teams. And so now having to build out a sales organization, like it's just a completely different challenge. And so I've had a lot of failures there where I haven't equipped people well, haven't trained people well. But I was actually thinking about that this morning. Like that's where I've grown the most. I haven't grown the most when things are going well, things are easy. Yeah, just you don't grow in those seasons. Like it feels more secure, but you're not really growing. So yeah.
Congratulations, by the way, on the 3 years. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Feat. And speaking of that, because I love talking to different people of all walks of life, and we all have issues, right? I think we're wired to a certain degree to where we do have vices or addictions to a certain degree, right? Addictive personality. Mm-hmm. So that's the people that what I had issues with. I want to know how you overcame them, right? Like you mentioned, you can help others as well going forward, and that's part of it.
Yeah. And the way I got through it is help, like community, other people that had been through it, right? Yep. It wasn't because I tried on my own, like with that particular struggle over and over and never got out of that. And then the moment I said, hey, I can't do it, and was like, hey, somebody that's been through this, help me. And guess what? People rallied around me and they helped. And, but it took a real like ego, like putting my ego aside, because I just had a lot of ego. Like I can do anything. I've always been successful, and man, just all this pride and ego. And that's kind of what kept me trapped in that particular thing, is just not getting help, just being like, I can do this on my own. But man, and like you said, like I have an addictive personality in general. So a ton of different vices. Like I even do work addictively. And like we were just talking about like doing a workout every day. Like I'm doing that, like channeling, like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the gym every day. Well, that's an addictive habit. Like thankfully that's a healthier one. Yeah.
But we all need that community for sure. Because here's the one thing with the addiction that we've both gone through is like, I don't want to talk to the person that has an issue buying shoes. Okay, they can't relate, right? I don't have an issue with shoes. I got an issue with something else. I need to talk to that individual, so we can bounce ideas off each other, right? Make me stronger to get through this.
Yep.
So, and I'm blessed to have a wife to say, Rodney, you need to go to the gym every morning because it's therapy, physically, obviously, because you just mentioned that. mentally as well. People don't really think about that, but it's simpatico with one another. I think you got to have one with the other to make them fit, synergy, if you will, to make the perfect situation, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I go in the evening, because I'm going home to my wife of 13 years and a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old that are running around. And if I don't, and then I'm mentally engaged, like all in it while I'm at work. And so if I don't take that time, like a lot of times I just get in the gym for 30 minutes, set a timer, get out. But if I don't do that, then I don't show up well for her. I go into like problem solving mode, like I do at work. I'm like, okay, I need to put this fire out. Like, so I hear her problems and then I'm trying to fix them, which doesn't go well, rather than listening and empathizing. But to your point, that little mental reset, yeah, I just majorly need that. Otherwise, I just have to kind of tell her, like, I'm probably not good to talk to right now because I haven't reset. Like, I'll try, but that, yeah, that transition. And I've learned through lots of failure in that as well. So what else have you read that's kind of, you talked about what you're reading currently. What else have you kind of read along that?
Yeah, so here's a cool thing. I think it's cool anyway. So I met this gentleman by the name of Jeff Strucker, right? He was an Army Ranger, so he signed one of his books, gave it to me, and I say American Hero because I've never met someone that's been on his level. If you've seen the movie Black Hawk Down, you know his story. It's
Oh,
very,
wow.
very, yeah, it's just amazing. That's one that I'll start next. Obviously, we just got through reading David Goggins, and unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend that to everyone. Because we talk about physical activities. He tries to kill your body, each and every day. I'm not sure I'm at that level because of my age. Maybe when I was 20 years younger, maybe, but I'm going to take a step back. I feel like I can still do the same things he's promoting, but less energy and impact. So those are kind of some of the books I have, I'll read. So I have these guys go through day-to-day, activities as far as physical activities, mentally getting there, spiritually, what they do. It's just, I feel like we need that as a world around us, life, brings on this obstacles day to day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just in transportation, we've had all kinds of just different challenges. It's like coming out of COVID, like everything spiked and, profitability was through the roof and we were needing drivers like crazy. And then there's kind of been recently a lot more people have full trucks and don't need as many drivers. And so then recruiters aren't busy and that creates a new set of challenges. And so just this industry requires resilience, and then we feel the same pressures on the marketing side because as recruiting directors we're working with, like are struggling, we're needing to adapt, whether it's ramping budget up, ramping it down, trying to cut costs, just whatever it is in that season. And I think that outside of work stuff is just as important to manage just your mental health as a recruiting director going through all that, or whatever your job is in transportation. And yeah, that I've had to put a huge emphasis on that. And I'm kind of to the same point. Like, I don't know if I agree to the extreme of Goggins, like in terms of like just destroy your body and like run until your toenails fall off. But I'm kind of in this phase of like workout, try not to like tear my shoulder. So like cut out flat bench, things like that. But just get in there, like 80-20 rule. Like, what's the 20% I can do to get the 80% of the results? And then consistency. I had an opportunity to hear John Maxwell speak, who's a big icon of mine, like somebody I really look up to in leadership. I had an opportunity to hear him speak in January in a small group setting. And the main thing that stuck out to me was like consistency compounds. And so that, like kind of like in my addiction, like I was hot and cold, like just extremes. But where I really need to grow in is just consistency. Like, what are the little bitty tiny daily actions, whether it's like spiritual stuff or workout or, little actions in the business. And then if I'm doing that consistency in the other areas and spending time with my family, then I have a better work product for my company. Like, and and then I show up. But it's kind of like if that other stuff falls apart for me, then I don't show up at work the way I should. So I love.
Yes, talk about consistency. It's the little things that we have to do, right? I mean, who wants to get up at 5 o'clock? But you do, and you're sitting on the side of the bed like, let me just walk and put on the shoes. If I get the shoes on, it's the little steps. We may not want to pick up the book for our spiritual growth, right? But just pick the book up. It's the little things. Just take that next step, whatever you're doing, and it builds habits, right? Habit forming at that point, and it translates to your work. It translates so when you get home, it's in the afternoon from work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So funny story.
Go ahead.
So it's funny. So me and my wife would always come home and spend 30 minutes every day, right? Catch up on our days. And then and then off something else every day. Well, since she's been remote, it's almost like I need the 30 minutes, right? But hasn't had the adult interaction. So she's like talking for an hour. Right? That's like, okay, we need to put a stop watch on this by chance, So it's kind of, it's unique. Yes. The dynamic now.
Mm-hmm. Did you say because she doesn't have the interaction with people at work?
No, she needs it bad. Yes. And that's the bad thing. I mean, she's on Zoom calls and meetings all day, but as far as the human interaction, which you just mentioned, yeah, it's lacking a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So similarly, my wife teaches fourth grade. And so she has a lot of little kid interactions, like with fourth graders, but not a lot of like adult conversation. And so I'm an extrovert. And so I'll I'm getting energy from having this conversation and working with my team all day. But I'm usually like extroverted out by the time I get home. And then same thing, like she's like, let me tell you about all the exciting things of my day. And she like hadn't had adult conversation and needs to process her day. So it's, we've had to, it's kind of it's a work in progress, like 13 years in and talking to.
Yeah, she always reminds me, I think men have, I'm throwing this number right here, 300 words a day. Well, obviously I use more than those talking to drivers every day because this phone really never stops. She has multiple more words to use when I get home, and I'm like, I'm dead. Mentally, I'm drained and dead. I'm not sure if I can form many sentences after that, but I try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes I'll have to be like, look, I can't talk right now, but I really want to listen, because I can handle that. It's like, but I might not listen the way you want me to, like empathetically and have the right responses. But I'm going to listen. But it's fun. I love the dynamic and the challenge of a relationship like that. And it's just so funny. So I read because I'm a voracious reader, and I read 13 books on biblical marriage, before I got married. And I was like, I got this. I got the theology. I read one theology book that had every reference to marriage. And I was like, I'm going to ace this. I don't know why 50% of people get divorced. Again, that ego kicking in, right? And then my first year of marriage, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so selfish and I'm causing so many problems. Yeah, it's just eye-opening. But I've grown more through that relationship with my wife than through any other relationship. And it's because it reveals who I am and how selfish I am when I get home. It kind of strips all the mask of I've got it together. Because
I tell you what helped me after, and I'm sad and I'm embarrassed to say 2 years after the marriage, is know her love language. That's the step in the right direction, right? Know this. I think we can handle a lot going forward after that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my wife says quality time. And so we try to do one date night every week, get it on the calendar without the kids. And then acts of service kind of equally. But it has to be, it's not acts of service doing the daily stuff, dishwasher or whatever. It's the above and beyond things I haven't thought of before. And so it's always a little bit of a challenge.
Yes. Acts of service is hers as well. And you mentioned dating. I mean, you have to continue dating, period, right? That's what got you there. We can't stop it just because we're there now. So.
Yeah. And it's hard. We kicked it off 3 months after our last son was born again, and had a babysitter when he's 3 months old, just because we need that so much. We love our kids to death, but it doesn't stop. It just goes. And just getting away, because even at the dinner table with the little guys running around, I mean, we're trying to talk, but we only get a tiny bit in. Now, our date night this last week, because I've been traveling so much, like at different industry events, like, Mid-America Truck Show and TCA and just all the things we had going on. Because I've been traveling so much, we haven't been as connected. And so date night this week was not as good because like we weren't as connected and hadn't talked things out. But it was so funny. We had like a like tension our whole dinner, and she wouldn't mind my saying this at all. But like, so we had tension our whole dinner, mainly driven by me and just not feeling connected and stuff like that. And so afterwards I was like, let's go to the arcade. Like I've gone with our 4-year-old a couple times. I was like, we're going to be the only adults there, like playing arcade games, but it was fun. We just went and laughed and played the little race car game and claw game and whatever. But yeah, that's
That's
one
so good.
thing. That's one thing that's kept us married, because we could easily be that statistic for a lot of different reasons. And again, that's okay if it happens. But I'm gonna do everything to fight for the nuclear family. And
Yeah, I don't like to fail. Is what you meant. So yes, I'm fighting for this because it means so much. Absolutely.
today's sponsor. Do you hire truck drivers in hard to fill areas, or do you need help creating efficiency in your recruiting department? You're not alone. With 50 plus years experience, Trucking Click specializes in data-driven strategies, industry-leading customer experience, and custom solutions that'll get you to your goal. Trucking Clicks is your go-to place for high-quality, direct leads at scale. Visit truckingclicks.com or call 512-982-0816 today. So one of the things on growth mindset too is like, because I sense all this, positivity and energy from you just by what you've learned on some of this mindset stuff. Like, how do you channel that into your recruiting team or different people you work with on a weekly basis?
Basically, I kind of learned this in sales back in the day, where every door, every customer is brand new, no matter what happened at the last sales call. They don't know and they don't care, right? So you always have to smile, put on your best face, best foot forward. And it's kind of like walking into your team each morning, right? I mean, they expect me to be loud, energetic, come in the door wide open. And the problem is when I don't, right, they call me out on it. Like, whoa, something's up, Rodney. Whoa, what's going on, right? Everything okay at home? So I have to learn, like, this is kind of where I am. They always remind me, they always say, so coach, right? What are we doing today? So you just got to bring that positivity. That's what they want. They got to, just bring the energy, because guess what? As a leader, if you don't have that, how is that going to trickle down to them? They're going to talk on the phone. They're going to do their canned presentation. They're going to do this, sleazy sales call, if you will, right? And we don't want that. Yeah. Nothing canned here. There's no presentation. You active listening, talk to the driver, build relationships out of the gate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an area I could grow in. It's been this weird, like I went from this dynamic of like always being the positive person to then like connecting with my feelings and like being more transparent about it. And so now a lot of times, because radical honesty is one of our core values, I'll come in and just say like, hey, I'm having a hard time with this, and this. And it does not carry over well. Like as the leader, like, yes, I'm being radically honest, but I'm setting the tone for the team for that day or that week or that month. So I really like you, like mentioning that it doesn't matter what's hard in the business. Like we have to be the cheerleaders and fire them up, like in leadership. And yeah, I really like that, the energy. So I guess you're able to get there just by going to the gym in the morning. That kind of helps set
Right.
up.
And a lot of caffeine. Yeah, a lot of
A
caffeine
lot of
helps.
caffeine.
A lot,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. Yeah. But if one of the recruiters hangs up the phone, it was a horrible phone call, it didn't go well, drop it. Guess what? It's behind us, right? Pick up the phone again and dial the number and put, smile and dial, right? We've heard that forever. Just smile and dial. Okay. They have no idea who's on the other end of the line, what just happened. They don't care. So let's just start completely over.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new call. Yeah.
That's good. What else do you do kind of throughout the week or just in general, like just to encourage them? Like, let's say they get down because somebody's rejecting them on the phone.
Just pick up the phone and keep going. That's all you can do. Yes.
Consistency.
Consistency, right? That's your word. Take the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't give up.
And there you go, drinking that coffee. I would have coffee with me right now, but I was getting all this equipment set up, so I was a little slow. So sadly jealous of your coffee consumption right now.
Right. As far as team goes, I want them to participate in the orientation. I want them to introduce themselves to the drivers that are coming in with the same positivity, with the same smile. Here's the worst thing ever. Think about a driver or you coming to a workplace initially, right? Your first day at work and you're walking around and you're being introduced and nobody's smiling at you, right? They're barely looking up. There is nothing more frustrating, if you will, right? Embarrassing than that. So we're going to bring the energy, and everyone's going to bring the energy because we want these people or these drivers that chose us to really be excited that they chose us to be a part of our team, part of our family.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes a long way. I mean, after the first day, they go back because, they're going back to the hotel room and they're talking as a group like, man, I don't know about this. Did I make a bad mistake? Well, no, because when you leave here, you're going to feel the love and we're going to do it again tomorrow. The same, this is not a show. You're part of the family now.
Yeah. So it carries heavily into orientation is what you're saying too. Like just encouraging them, supporting them, sharing that energy, like through that whole process.
And we're such a small class, right? The recruiters will go to lunch with them each day, right? To get to know them better, right? To get the drivers here, they have one contact. That was the recruiter. Once they're here, they're still meeting everyone. Everyone's giving them a business card, and they'll know their dispatcher, obviously. But when things get tough, who they're going to call? The only person they've got a relationship with. So that's where the retention comes into play, right? Because they're going to tell that recruiter first, hey, man, what's going on? I'm sitting. Nobody's answering the phone. We hear it. So once we get them talking to us, we can have some of this bad negativity, before it gets steamrolling more.
Yeah, you can help solve their problem or empathize with them. So kind of going into our next section, like what are you noticing on like marketing trends? Like what's working for you guys like in your driver recruitment marketing right now?
We're just advertising. We got a small spin. We're doing the legwork. We're reaching out, not stopping until they tell us to, for the most part. It's building a relationship. I think it's just old school, right? I don't think we have to reinvent the mousetrap because it's already, we know what's successful and what's not. And it's just putting the effort in.
Mm-hmm. That's good. What are you seeing? Ask everybody this question. Like, what are you seeing in the industry right now? Like, is this freight recession going to end? Are we in this kind of down cycle forever? Like, what are you seeing? Are you seeing any positive news in the market or?
Well, I'm a positive guy, but since you asked me to be honest, I've been in this industry a long time and it's the election year. And if that's, if I shouldn't have said that, I apologize, but we see this every year. And my honest opinion, I don't see it doing anything. We may see an uptick quarter three, but we know quarter four is around the corner and it's going to be slow, right? We have to get through this year before we see any turnaround, in my opinion, just because where we are right now is a country, obviously, and a culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was so interesting. Like back, I think Q4 of last year, I heard people saying like, oh, it's going to turn around in January. And I'm like, none of the market data shows that it's going to turn around this year. I mean, stuff's more positive, but if anything, it's showing like slow growth. It's like nothing is showing like a direct shot back up to where we are in any period of time.
So I love when I have those conversations, people, tell me like, oh yeah, it's going to turn around. Quarter three is like, maybe. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm going to be very positive about it. But I just don't see that happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had Brad Hackett on recently, and pertaining to this, he's an optimistic guy too, and he said reserved optimism, like that's his term, and I really like that because I'm optimistic too. But you need, as a director of recruiting, especially in that seat, it needs to be reserved optimism because you can make a bunch of really bad business decisions by being overly optimistic. And so I think I think that's a healthy posture. And so I still, see the optimism and hear it, but it's just reserved because of where we are in the market.
As far as spend, as marketing spend, I've never been one to turn off the faucet completely, because once things pick back up, guess what? You're 30 days out at that point. At that point, you're behind the eight ball. So I've never done that. Maybe turn it down just a little bit, and then you always have flexibility to do whatever you need to do at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to work this cycle, but in the last few cycles, when people turned it off completely, like they were struggling when things ramped back up, and it turned on fast. It didn't turn on slow. It was just like suddenly, you can whisper and get a driver, and then tomorrow you can't get any drivers to show up for any reason. And yeah, I'm a huge proponent of just keeping something rolling. Like even if it's you shift to more of a brand presence, like you got to be prepared and you got to have people in your pipeline, because you're not just suddenly going to reach out to them next week and they've never heard of Baggett and then they're going to come over and join your company. Like there has to be a level of exposure. So I'm right there with you. Like we got to cut costs like when things are tighter, right? But I think so many people make mistakes, and then the people that keep it ramped up, they pick up market share when things do change, and they're like, let's say you're wanting to grow your fleet. That's who picks up market share, is who was already in the race, not the people jumping back in. So
yeah, I always stay visible.
Mm-hmm. So what else should I have asked that kind of pertains to our audience? Is there anything I missed?
As far as recruiting is, I have to use that word recruiting. I will never use the word sales, right? But I love the recruiting as just a slant on relationship building, because in my opinion, that's what it is, right? It's not getting the drivers to trust you, but being there for them, active listening, hearing what their needs are, what they're looking for, and if it's a good fit or not, right? As far as retention goes, it never stops. So what I love to do, once they're here, I'm going to follow up with them in 2 weeks. Phone call, voicemail, text. I want to know how it's going. That's 15 days out, right? 30 days out, I'm doing the same thing. 45. So I'm doing this up to 90 days out. I need to know these guys are happy. They made the right choice. Everything we told them is still true, right? And that's pretty much what we do. Now, the best, I guess, recruiting tool that we have are other drivers in the fleet. And we have a referral bonus for that. We have drivers that are very active who've been here a long time, and that helps tremendously. The ones that have been here 3+ years, that says a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do you kind of keep that in front of your drivers to be thinking about referring others? Like, do you mention that fairly regularly, or just send out something about the bonus?
We send, when we introduce ourselves on the week of orientation, I'm bringing it up. Here's, a payout that you can get to refer your buddy, because we know these drivers follow each other for the most part, right? There's always a group. Hey, if one goes, I'm going to be the guinea pig, if you will. Hey, if it's great, I'm letting you know, right? The other 4 is coming soon. So you just kind of like, each time you talk to them, have you have anyone that I need to reach out to? How are they doing? The guys that at the other locations you just came from, and they'll talk. If they're happy, they're going to tell them about it and tell you to reach out to them. Well, I think it's key. They trust you because they know that you will, do what you say you're going to do. They know you're going to pick up the phone at 7:00 in the afternoon or 5:00 at the gym. You're going to answer it while you're between sets. So they know that, hey, we can depend on this Rodney guy, right? Call him anytime, he's going to pick up the phone. If not, he will get back with you. And that builds a lot of trust and accountability with us, within the team.
Mm-hmm. Relationships. I feel like that has to be the theme.
Nothing new.
The theme.
Right.
No, nothing new, but I think we forget. I think we can all have the propensity to forget, just with what all is going on with technology. But there's no substitute for it.
I think I learned that in my LTL days, right? When I was in LTLs for many, many years, once I got in the LTL, it was almost like being in the mafia. It's like, how am I getting out of this? I'm kind of stuck. But when you're an ops manager or a dispatcher even, and you're talking to these drivers like, hey, can you pick this load up? That's simple, right? And they're like, well, no, like, what do? You build that relationship, You're not selling him the point that, hey, will you do this for us, right? But hey, I need a favor from you. I'll make it up to you if you can do this for me today. You learn that in operations, obviously, right? Fast forward to sales. Ops is immediate gratification. Sales, it took me a long time to understand that you're planting the seed. So when you're walking in the door to make the sales call to the shipping manager, to the traffic manager, it's building relationships. You're not going to get a sale day one. At least I never went in to do the sale day one. I want to build a relationship. I need to let him know he can count on me if he needs anything, and kind of go from there. So this is nothing new, right? As far as that goes.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Rodney. I really enjoyed just getting to know you and just talking about life. It's just really refreshing, and then I think we got some really good nuggets that can help people like at the end there.
Good. Aaron, it is a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it as well.
Our goal with the Hire Truckers podcast is to provide industry insights, marketing trends, and motivation to help you level up your recruiting game. Thank you for joining us today. And if we added value, please take 10 seconds to share this with your network.